When we start reading this week's Parashat, we discern a change. Until now, the Torah has told us stories, narrative, all kinds of information which we really needed to know, or certainly enhanced our knowledge to know where we came from. The stories of the patriarchs, the matriarchs. We move over into going to Egypt and then later standing at Sinai. And now a shift takes place. God commands us to build a Mishkan, to build a tabernacle, a house for God, as it were. And this seems strange. Because one of the things that really we would love to know, is this something new? Is this connected to the past? Do we see any hints of this beforehand? So the rabbis actually point at a couple of things which will help us understand the Mishkan within, shall we call it, a patriarchal context. For one, there was a really large beam which was used. The central beam was used in the Mishkan. And one of the things the rabbis ask, which you can ask regarding all of the materials used, where do they get it from? Where do they get this particularly large beam? So we're told that this is one of the things which Avraham planted. Now right there you understand an incredible thematic connection. That means that the very center of this Mishkan is going to be something connected to Avraham. The spirituality in the Mishkan is somehow connected to Avraham, and let me add, not just to Avraham. If we read carefully the Midrash, the rabbinic understanding of the tent of Sarah, which had certain spiritual qualities to it, the miraculous light, the miraculous bread, the cloud that was on top, all of these elements are connected to the Mishkan, which means the Mishkan really is connected to the home of Avraham and Sarah, to Sarah's tent, to the spiritual work of Avraham. But there's another element which is added. Probably the first person who actually said in the text, not a midrash, who said it is in the text of the Torah, that he's going to build a house for God, is Yaakov. Yaakov has a vision and sees angels going up and coming down. The word there is sulam. What's interesting is that really early authorities pointed out that sulam and Sinai have the same numerical value, which means that there's something over here in the Mishkan which is connected to Sinai, which is connected to Yaakov, and then Yaakov's conclusion, I need to build a house, which means when we stood at Sinai, information comes down from Sinai. But there's also this aspect of things which need to go up. The Mishkan is a place where our prayers, our offerings go up into heaven. But it's also a place where information, spirituality comes down. Quite beautifully, the Midrash says that those trees that were planted by Avraham, how they make it down to Egypt. That when Yaakov came down to Egypt, he cut down those trees and brought them with him, somehow knowing, somehow perhaps feeling he has to keep his word. He made a vow he's going to build a house for God. And he takes with him the beam, the major beam, planted by Avraham, carried by Yaakov, later on built by the Jews in the desert when they built that Mishkan. Which when we look at the Mishkan for the first time, it seems so different from anything that we've seen before. But when you look a little bit under the surface, you see the fingerprints of Avraham, Sarah, Yaakov, which means this isn't a completely new idea. Rather, it's the continuation of a very old idea.